Hi everyone, my name is Raymond. I'm going to be your host and presenter for the first three sections of our October's monthly meeting for EconUnited. This month we're going to be talking about careers in finance. So, yep. All right, so quick little table of contents before we move on. We have six sections that we're going to talk about. First, we're going to talk about the introduction to the finance industry, major career areas, skills and educated needed, day in the life of a finance professional, emerging trends and opportunities, and how to get started. Well, first of all, I'm just going to be covering the first three sections as I mentioned, and then Anukta would be carrying on with with the latter half. So that's what we're going to be doing for this one. All right, so quick little introduction to the finance industry. Finance can really be divided into three main branches. First, you obviously have personal finance, which focuses on how individuals manage their own money, things like budgeting, saving, investing, and retirement planning. Next, corporate finance. This deals with how businesses make financial decisions from raising capital to managing profits and also making investment choices as well. And finally, public finance. This is more of the policy, maybe a little bit of econ focus. It's all about how governments handle money through taxes, budgeting, and obviously fiscal policy. And together, when you combine these three areas, it forms the foundation of the entire financial system. Going over some key sectors of finance. Each branch of finance connects to different sectors that specialize in like specific parts of the economy. For example, banking focuses on loans, deposit, and credit, and then investments usually involve stocks, bonds, and managing portfolios. Insurance helps people and companies manage financial risk, and then obviously the next three are a little bit more niche, but fintech basically helps to bring technology into finance. For example, mobile banking or like crypto trading apps are all example of fintech. Essentially, fintech seeks to make finance more efficient or consolidate it using technology. Next is real estate, and this one focuses on property financing and investments, while accounting obviously ensures that accurate reporting and compliance with financial reports and statements are being met. A cool little thing about interest about real estate, if some of you guys might not know this, but real estate is basically land and everything that is on that land. So essentially what real estate you're going to be doing in real estate finance is that you're going to be talking about fucking and financing and investing in land and everything that is encompassed on that land. Quick little thing about the global scale of finance. Over 10 million people worldwide work in the financial industry services. So this means that finance is a huge sector globally in the economy. It's one of the biggest service sectors in the world. And obviously, like a lot of different industries there's obviously going to be there's obviously going to be like major hubs and centers that orbit around that specific industry. And for finance, we call these major financial hubs New York City, London, Tokyo, Hong Kong, and Singapore. There's obviously more financial hubs out there, but these are usually seen as the main big ones. Understanding how these systems sort of connect helps us see how finance impacts everyone. So obviously the finance ecosystem is huge. It's not just like one specific like industry, one specific thing or one specific institution. It covers anything from banks, stock exchanges, investment firms, insurers, and fintech companies. And when you combine all of these and then some, this makes up the what we call the financial ecosystem. All right, so next up, we're going to be talking about the major career areas in finance. The reason why we say career areas instead of specific careers is because I feel like in finance, there's so many careers out there, and that if any one of us were to sit here and just talk about it, it would take forever. So it's better to make it more organized and split them up into sort of areas that we can sort of focus on, that you guys can sort of match your interest into. So yeah. All right, so starting off with our next slide. So quick little overview of what's happening with this. So finance connects to almost every sector, from businesses and governments to technology. Some roles are obviously going to be more technical, like focused on analyzing data or valuing assets, while other roles are more client facing and social. So helping people or businesses make better financial decisions is also part of being more social and being both social and technical. But no matter like what role you sort of choose, there's always going to be these three key core ideas, and that's managing risk, allocating capital, and creating value. Let's start with one of the most well-known areas. This is banking and investments. In investment banking, professionals help companies raise money, handle mergers and acquisitions, and take companies public through IPOs. Commercial banking focuses more on individuals and businesses like loans, credit, and financial services. Finally, asset and wealth management involves managing portfolios and advising clients on how to grow their investments. Taking these careers are ideal for people who are sort of competitive and interested in markets and bigger ideas. Quick little vocabulary that we want to go over before we move on. So first, mergers and acquisitions. Mergers and acquisitions deals with when companies want to merge. For example, two companies sort of combining into one. We call this a merger. And then an acquisition, which is when one company buys another company. We call this an acquisition, obviously. And this is sort of key with your investment banking things. So basically advising on firms on how to merge and how to acquire another firm. Next, obviously, investment banking also focuses on IPOs, which is basically when companies want to raise capital by issuing stocks or whatnot. They do this through an IPO, and you help sort of advise companies on how to do this. So that's some of the vocabulary that you guys might not be familiar with, and that I want to sort of go over before we move on to like some other things. All right. Next, we're going to be talking about our main consulting careers. So for each of these career clusters that we sort of have, we sort of pick three main careers under each of these paths. So for consulting, we have strategy consulting. Basically, you're helping companies make high-level business and financial decisions. What does this mean? What does this mean? Well, this means that basically you're helping businesses find ways in order to compete with other businesses in their specific market and drive growth while they're competing with them. Basically, you're focused on helping these companies stay competitive and helping them grow. All right, next we have management consulting. What this one deals with is sort of the internal operations that sort of help the strategy, right? So in strategy, obviously this is more external, being able to where to expand. Like for example, you're telling companies like where to expand, what to do in this scenario. Well, management consulting, you sort of help to consolidate their operations by making them more efficient, more profitable, and helping them operate in a better scale that can help their strategy. And outside of these two, we sort of have another one. This one's a little bit more off-centered from the others, and this is financial advisory consulting. Basically, you're looking at a company's internal financial health. You're looking at their transactions, looking at the amount of risk they're taking, basically looking at their fundamentals of the business, like the amount of money they have and what they're doing with that money. Sort of, you're looking at sort of the core of the business itself. All right, next is accounting. There's three main accounting careers, obviously. First one is public accounting. This one covers things like you're providing auditing services, tax services, and advisory services to different clients, like which should either be individuals or even institutions through accounting firms. And in public accounting, there's four big main firms. We call this KPMG, EY, PwC, and Deloitte. These are going to be called your big four accounting firms. Next is corporate accounting. We also call this managerial accounting. Essentially, you're helping manage a company's internal finances, budgets, and cost analysis. This one, you guys probably noticed that this one sounds a little bit similar to financial advisory consulting. Essentially, corporate accounting deals with you're more hands-on with their finances and with managing that, and that sort of financial advisory consulting can sort of oversee the more broader aspect of that. All right, the third one is government and nonprofit accounting. This one focuses and oversees reports and use of public donated funds to ensure accountability. Obviously, you have roles like government auditor and fund accountant. Essentially, what this means is that in government and nonprofit institutions, usually a lot of their funds need to be allocated in a specific way and to certain causes. And as a government and nonprofit accounting, obviously, you're making sure that this gets allocated properly and working with them to see how to allocate this. All right, we also have a few specialized and also emerging fields in this. So specialized, basically what we mean by this is that these are sort of roles that don't necessarily fit too well into any of the other categories that we covered. And then obviously emerging fields. These are fields that sort of not really intercept, but these are sort of fields that are sort of on the rise up. So obviously fintech is the main emerging field that you guys are going to know. So in fintech, obviously, as we talked about before, you're basically making use of technology in order to make finance more efficient. For example, you see technologies like blockchain, like online brokerages and crypto trading platforms. This is all called fintech. In insurance, obviously you're helping businesses and individuals manage their uncertainty and protect against certain financial losses in the future. This is under insurance. Real estate, we already covered this. Basically focuses on funding, valuing, and investing in real estate, which is land and everything that's attached to it. So property investing and across different markets such as residential and even commercial real estate markets. And then government and policy, obviously this one fits more to the policy side. So maybe if you guys are interested in more of like economics or something like that, this one could be like a specific area that you guys are looking at. So how do you necessarily determine your fit? Well, this is one of the biggest questions that a lot of people are probably and likely going to ask. And determining your fit really comes down to your personal preferences as well as your strengths that you have already established. If you like big deals and markets, like sort of analyzing markets, and you're a competitive and analytical person, banking and investments is definitely going to be a path that you sort of lean towards. If you enjoy more of a creative side, let's say you enjoy solving problems and being strategic, definitely consulting I would suggest for you. And if you enjoy working with numbers, you're a technical and analytical person, you're detail oriented and organized, accounting could be a fit for you. And then if you love technology and you're creative as well, fintech or some of the other emerging fields could also sort of be your.
Hey guys, now we'll be going over a day in the life of a finance professional and what does a career in finance look like. So, finance careers are really diverse. You could be working on Wall Street, in a corporate office, for a startup, or even for a government agency. So, some roles are extremely fast paced, infamously investment banking, while others, like corporate finance, are a bit more structured and like your typical 9 to 5. But no matter where you are, the work is all about analyzing data, making decisions, and helping organizations or individuals manage money and their resources effectively. And today we'll go through some examples of what a day in the life looks like across different roles so you get a better sense of what these jobs really involve. So, the first role we're going to be going over is an investment banking analyst. It's very intense and very well known. Investment banking is one of the most famous finance careers, and it's also one of the most intense because these analysts can often work extremely long hours, sometimes 80 to 100 hours a week when deals are happening, and their day is basically just filled with building financial models, preparing valuations for clients, and working on like pitch books or pitches for clients. And they're constantly working on deadlines and interacting with senior bankers and teams across different offices. And the stress is pretty high, but the rewards can be significant because it's a very lucrative career and it's rewarding both in experience and financially. And it's basically a career that you need attention to detail for. You need to be very resilient, and it teaches you skills that are transferable to almost any other role in finance. So once you've worked in investment banking, you are very knowledgeable about finance, and you can essentially go into any other field within finance because investment banking is the most intense. Now we're going to be going over a financial analyst or a corporate finances day in the life. So a corporate finance is very different from investment banking because analysts in this area usually have a more chill, like regular schedule. It's a 9 to 5, and their work focuses on supporting the company's financial health. So what they do is analyze budgets, forecast revenue, and help leadership make informed decisions. You'll be in constant communication with different teams, like the marketing team, operations team, product development team, whatever the leadership is in that, to understand how their choices are impacting the company financially. So, this role requires strong analytical skills and attention to detail, but it can also be rewarding because you can see it, like how your work directly contributes to the company's growth. And this is much less intense than investment banking. So if you would like a more typical career, corporate finance may be for you. Next, we have fintech and startups. Finance in startups and fintech companies is a completely different experience from the prior two jobs because these roles are a combination of finance with technology, data analysis, and innovation. So you may be working on budgeting, analyzing user behavior, building financial products for new markets. And the teams in these are usually very small because it's a small group of people that come together and have a lot of responsibility and freedom to make decisions in order to develop their product or their company. And you need to be able to adapt very quickly and think creatively because the environment is constantly changing in this field. There's always new products coming, trends in the market that you have to be cognizant of. And for students interested in combining technology and finance, these roles are a great way to learn skills that would be valuable across many industries because when you're working in fintech, you're utilizing a ton of different skills, whether it be something more related to computer science or something related to more to finance and entrepreneurship. You're basically getting a lot of knowledge from working in fintech and startups, and these skills are pretty transferable. Now we're going to be going over work-life balance and growth. So each finance career comes with a different lifestyle. As previously mentioned, investment banking is very high stress and very fast paced, but you get a lot of early promotions and make a decent amount of money for the work you're doing. So, corporate finance, on the other hand, is more stable with steady hours and predictable growth. Startups and fintech offer a lot of flexibility, creative freedom, and you get the chance to learn by doing, but it can sometimes be unpredictable. So everyone has to weigh what matters most to them, whether it's speed of advancement, stability, or freedom. And the key takeaway from this is that no matter the path you choose, finance career offer opportunities to develop skills that are valuable for life and not just for your job. And it's always worth thinking about your long-term goals when choosing which path to follow. So I guess a discussion question would be, would you choose a fast-paced and high-stakes career or a balanced and steady career? Based off of what we just went over, you can try and think. Okay, now we're going to be going over emerging trends and opportunities in finance. So, the future of finance is changing because finance isn't the same as it was even 5 years ago, and it's going to change even more in the next decade because technology, globalization, and changing social values are really changing the industry. So, traditional jobs are evolving, um, and new roles are emerging, and the way money flows around the world is different than it used to be. So, for anyone thinking about a career in finance, it's important to understand these changes because they will determine what skills you need and where the opportunities will be. And today we'll look at some of the biggest trends shaping the future of finance. As everyone knows, we have AI and automation because AI and automation are probably the biggest game changers in finance right now. Many repetitive tasks like data entry, basic accounting, and initial analysis are all being automated, which means that finance professionals can focus more on the less manual aspects of finance, like strategy, interpretation, and problem solving, instead of just like crunching numbers. But it also means that the skill set that you need for finance is changing because you need to understand technology, data, and how to work with AI tools effectively because jobs aren't disappearing entirely, but the roles in finance are becoming more analytical and tech focused. So if you're entering finance today, learning how to work alongside these technologies and utilize them is very important because right now if you're watching this video you're probably in high school, and by the time you actually are in the work field, AI will probably be very dominant in finance. So it's important to start um, grasping these technologies early on. Now we have sustainable and ethical finance. Sustainability and ethical investing are becoming prevalent areas in finance because investors and companies are considering ESG factors. ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance factors, and companies are considering these when they're making financial decisions. For example, more companies are investing in green bonds or companies that are socially responsible. But unfortunately, companies aren't just doing this to be ethical. It's smart business because a lot of consumers and sometimes investors care about um, being ethical and good for the environment and community. And governments are creating incentives for sustainable practices. So careers in ESG um, are growing, and they show how finance can be used to create positive change in a world while still making money. Now we're going to be going over globalization and digital assets because finance is more global now than ever. People are investing across the world, companies are operating in multiple countries, and digital assets like cryptocurrencies and blockchain based finance are changing how money moves around the world. Digital finance can allow for instant transactions and a lot of creative ways to raise capital, but it also has challenges like regulation, cybersecurity, and volatility. So, for students entering finance, understanding these global systems is important because opportunities aren't just limited to your local city, they're like worldwide and they're growing. Now, we're going to be going over the new roles emerging. So, all these trends are creating brand new roles in finance. We're seeing ESG analysts, risk technologists, data finance specialists, and behavioral finance researchers are becoming more common. And these roles didn't even exist a decade ago. So, by the time you're in the workforce, there may be a ton of other new jobs. And the key takeaway from this is that finance isn't static, it's constantly evolving, and new opportunities keep popping up. And for anyone thinking about a career, this is exciting because it means you can find a niche that matches your skills and passions. And the question to ask yourself is what future trend excites you the most, and how can you prepare to be a part of it? But I guess a quick discussion question would be which of these future careers excites you the most? Okay, now we're going to be going over breaking into finance because finance might seem intimidating at first, but it's actually very accessible, more accessible than many people think. You don't need an MBA or years of experience to start like exploring, and it's just important to be curious, asking questions, trying things out, learning from any mistakes you make because finance is everywhere and even small experiences can teach you a lot. So, whether you're interested in doing something like starting your own company, advising other companies, or just analyzing numbers, there's a way in finance for you. What you can do now is learn the basics early, especially for a high schooler. One of the easiest ways to get started is joining student organizations like EconUnited, which you're already in. So, kudos to you for joining and being curious and ready to learn. And we have DECA and FBLA. DECA and FBLA are clubs which you can compete in high school and even at the collegiate level sometimes. And these clubs have a lot of business and finance topics covered in them. You can learn about things like marketing, entrepreneurship, um, stocks and investing. There's like a plethora of different topics that you can learn about in both of these, and you can get involved in them at a very good time, which is in high school, and start picking up on skills that you'll need in the future. You can compete in written events or role play events, which are very important because you'll have to do things like written reports in finance, and you'll have to like pitch to investors or talk to your coworkers in in a presentation, and these clubs can really help you prepare for it. You can also take online courses from platforms like Khan Academy, Coursera, or Udemy. Khan Academy specifically has two courses for finance in it. The first is personal financial literacy, I believe, and there's one more, but they're very useful in just helping you get the general gist of how finance works and what you can actually start doing now to be aware of your own money, keeping track of your spending, saving, budgeting, and just becoming a financially literate individual, which is the first step in getting into finance, is becoming financially literate yourself. You can also start learning on YouTube or and find finance podcasts. EconUnited actually has its own finance podcast, so you can go check that out. And YouTube channels, which you're doing right now, and is awesome. You can learn concepts like investing, budgeting, economic principles, and these. And lastly, you can also practice with mock portfolios. There's a lot of online games and competitions where you can start learning about stocks and investing with your own fake portfolio to see how the market works. And you can track your own spending and saving in that, and just you can participate without actually losing any of your own money. And the idea is just to basically get comfortable with money markets and business ideas early, because it'll give you a huge advantage later in life. Next, we have internships and experience. So experience is key in finance. Look for internships, volunteer opportunities, or school projects that can expose you to real world finance. They don't have to be anything big. You could just ask around and work with a local small business, a nonprofit, or even a startup. Like, any experience counts. You can just ask them to shadow professionals, to see what their day-to-day work looks like, and ask questions about what skills they use so you can maybe start learning them yourself. And small roles can teach you how companies handle money and make decisions, and starting early will help you figure out what type of finance role actually fits your strengths and interests, because finance is a very diverse field, and starting to explore it with internships right now will give you a sense of what you enjoy and what you would like to pursue in the future. Next, we have networking and mentorship, which are very big parts of finance, because finance is as much about who you know as well as what you know. So, unlike other careers that may be very focused on just um, manual or like manual work, finance is also about like interacting with other people and networking. So you can start building your network now by reaching out to alumni, teachers, or professionals on LinkedIn. And you can attend workshops, webinars, or local events where you can meet people in the industry. A quick Google search will allow you to find sites where people are hosting workshops and seminars, and you can go there and meet people who may be a lot older than you, especially if you're in high school watching this. But meeting these people and learning from them will help you find mentors who can guide you, answer your questions, and help you make informed choices. And networking doesn't have to be intimidating, because it's really a lot about just curiosity, asking smart questions, and building a genuine relationship with these professionals. Lastly, it's really important to build your personal brand, because it's very important to think about how you present yourself in finance, because employers will usually look at your LinkedIn. So it's important to keep a simple resume and a LinkedIn profile updated. If you've done projects, blogs, or small finance experiments, you can showcase them on your LinkedIn and have a little portfolio. It's you can just start small, like maybe a finance blog, a social media project, or a podcast, or even helping your friends and family understand how money works. Consistency is more important than perfection with this. So the goal is just to show that you took some initiative, demonstrated your skills, and made it easy for people to see your potential. Because finance is a very competitive career, but if you start building your brand and your skills early, you'll have a head start on your peers. You're already taking the first step by watching this video, so kudos to you. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions about the content covered or any questions in general about EconUnited, you can email us at econunitedteam@gmail.com, or you can visit our website at econunited.org to learn more about our mission. And we have a lot of resources there as well, where you can start learning about finance and becoming more financially literate.